The last illusion to fall. The sense of I. Buddhist wisdom. We all carry a sense of I every single day. It is the first thing that greets us when we wake up and the last thing running when we fall asleep. It sits behind every decision, every emotion, every relationship. And yet, if someone were to ask you, "What is this I really?" you would not be able to answer. You might say your name, but that is a label your parents chose. You might point to your body, but the body you had 10 years ago is not the body you have now. You might describe your role. I am a mother, I am a teacher, I am the responsible one. But these are positions you hold, not what you are. Strip them away, and the question remains, what is left? Psychology calls the collection of these answers the self-concept, a mental image built from memories, beliefs, and experience. I am strong. I am not enough. I am the one who always gets left behind. These are not facts. They are stories that formed early, hardened over time, and now run your life in ways you rarely notice. When you believe I am not enough, you don't experience it as a belief. You experience it as the weather, as something that simply is. You organize your choices around it. You pick relationships that confirm it. You avoid situations that might challenge it. But here is the part that matters. The self-concept is only the surface. It is the part of the I that you can, with enough honesty, begin to see through. Many people do. Through therapy, through hard experience, through quiet reflection, they start to recognize that story about not being enough was just a story, and something loosens. But beneath the stories, beneath the labels, beneath even your thoughts and emotions, there is something else. A bare sense of I am that has nothing to do with any story. Not I am this or I am that. Just I am. A feeling of being a someone, a center, a point from which everything else is experienced and to which everything else returns. This sense is so fundamental that you have probably never thought to question it. It is like the air in a room, so constant that you forget it is there until someone takes it away. And this is the thing you cannot see through, not because you are not smart enough, but because every other illusion you have seen through, you could step back from. You could see the gap between belief and reality. But this one, there is no place to step back to. Wherever you step, it comes with you. It is the one doing the stepping. Over 2,600 years ago, the Buddha looked into this question, not as a philosopher building a theory, but as someone determined to see what is actually there. He did not say, "Believe that there is no self." He said, "Look for yourself. Examine each layer of what you call me, and see whether what you find there is really what you think it is." That is what we are going to do together. Not to destroy anything, but to look carefully at the one thing you have been looking from your entire life. The Buddha did not ask anyone to take his word for it. In the Khemaka Sutta, only the second discourse he gave after enlightenment, he divided the entirety of human experience into 5 groups. The Pāli word is khandha, 5 aggregates, and he offered a clear test. If any of these were truly yourself, you would be able to control them. You could say, "May my form be like this," and it would obey. But you cannot. The body ages without your permission. Feelings arise uninvited. Thoughts appear on their own schedule. The very fact that these things lead to affliction, that they do not bend to your will, is evidence that they are not self. Form, rupa, the body. The Buddha analyzed it further into the four great elements: earth, solidity; water, fluidity; fire, temperature; and wind, movement. Everything you call my body is some combination of these, and none of them belong to you. The most tangible thing you can call me, and yet when your body aches, you don't say, "A body is in pain." You say, "I hurt." Still, with sustained attention, you can begin to see the body as a process rather than a possession. This identification can loosen. Feeling, Vedana, the tone of every experience, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. You don't just experience these tones, you merge with them. I am happy, and you become the happiness. I am in pain, and you become the pain. But with practice, you can learn to notice the gap between a feeling arising and the moment I claims it. Perception, Sanya, the mind's reflex of labeling. It labels the world, tree, danger, beautiful. It also labels you, I am a failure. I am not the kind of person who gets chosen. These labels feel like observations. They are stamps pressed onto raw experience, and once pressed, they filter everything that follows. Mental formation, Sankhara, intention, impulse, habitual reaction. When irritation flares before you even think, that is Sankhara. When compassion moves through you, also Sankhara. This is where Kama is born, and where the most persuasive illusion within the five arises. The sense of a decision-maker inside, a captain at the helm. Even the intention to be a better person, to meditate, to let go, these too are Sankhara. Conditioned patterns, not a commander giving orders, but currents moving through an empty room. Consciousness, Vijnana, the knowing itself. After seeing through body, feeling, perception, and impulse, there is still awareness, the sheer fact that experiencing is happening at all. And the mind makes its last stand. Surely this knowing is what I truly am. This conclusion is seductive. Many contemplative traditions stop here. They identify the self with pure awareness. And it feels liberating to land there, because you have let go of so much to arrive at this point. But the Buddha did not stop there. He said, look at awareness itself. Is it constant? Is it self-sustaining? Or does it too arise depending on conditions? In the Khemaka Sutta, the monk Sati clung to exactly this view, that consciousness is an unchanging essence traveling from life to life. The Buddha rebuked him directly and used an analogy. Just as fire is classified by what it burns, a wood fire, a grass fire, a chaff fire, consciousness is classified by the conditions on which it depends. Eye meets form. Eye consciousness arises. Ear meets sound. Ear consciousness arises. Remove the conditions, and there is nothing to find. This is why, back in the Khemaka Sutta, when the Buddha put the question to the five ascetics, is form permanent or impermanent? The answer was clear: impermanent. Is it fitting to regard what is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change as, this is mine, this is what I am, this is myself? No. The same for feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. Each time, no. Now here is the crucial point. The conviction that one of these aggregates is self, or that a self lives somewhere among them. The Buddha called this Sakkaya Ditthi, identity view. It is the intellectual belief in a self. And according to the Khemaka Sutta, this view is the first major fetter to be broken. When a person learns to attend wisely, contemplating stress, its origin, its cessation, and the path, 3 fetters are abandoned: identity view, doubt, and attachment to rights. This happens at stream entry, the very first stage of awakening. From that point on, the practitioner no longer holds the view that form is self, that feeling is self, that any aggregate is self. The belief is gone. And yet, something remains. Not a belief, not a view. A feeling that runs deeper than any thought has ever reached. There is a discourse that few people quote, but it contains what I believe is one of the most honest moments in all of Buddhist literature. The Khemaka Sutta. Just a monk, severely ill, lying in his dwelling at the jujube tree park. After several rounds of questions sent through a messenger, Khemaka finally said, "Enough. Fetch me my staff. I will go to the elders myself." So this sick monk, in pain, barely able to walk, leaned on his staff and went to face the elders directly. That act alone says something. He could have kept sending answers through the messenger, but he knew that what he was about to say could not be relayed secondhand. It had to be spoken directly, from experience. Khemaka was already far along the path, traditionally understood as a non-returner, the 3rd level of awakening. The identity view had been broken long ago. The elders asked him, "Do you regard any of the 5 clinging aggregates as self?" He said, "No." They pressed, "Then you must be an arahant, fully liberated." And Khemaka said, "With regard to these 5 clinging aggregates, there is nothing I assume to be self or belonging to self, and yet I am not an arahant. I am has not been overcome, although I don't assume that I am this. This is the 2nd level. The Buddha called it asmimana, the conceit, I am. And conceit here does not mean arrogance. It means something closer to a residual distortion, a habit of the mind that keeps generating a center, a me, around which experience organizes itself. It is not a thought you think, it is something you feel. To explain it, Khemaka asked, "The scent of a blue, red, or white lotus, if someone were to call it the scent of a petal, or the scent of the color, or the scent of a filament, would he be speaking correctly?" The elders said no. Then how would he describe it? As the scent of the flower. That is how asmimana works. It does not reside in any single aggregate, but arising in dependence on all 5, there is this subtle sense of I, pervasive, unlocatable. And this is not an abstract idea. It is something you can check against your own experience right now. You can feel it right now, if you are willing to be honest. You are listening to these words. There is hearing happening. There is understanding happening. And underneath all of that, something is quietly insisting, I am here. I am the one taking this in. You didn't decide to produce that feeling. It was not the result of reasoning. It is simply running. Like background noise you have lived with so long you forgot it was playing. The identity view is a belief. It can be examined and dropped. Asmimana is not a belief. It is the sense of being the one who examines. You can watch a feeling and know, that is not me. But who is watching? That quiet sense of someone watching, that is asmimana. Everything else stands in front of you. This one stands behind your eyes. And this is why no amount of thinking about not self can uproot it. You can read every sutta, memorize every argument, win every debate, and the I that reads, memorizes, and wins will still be there when you are done. Thinking about not-self is still thinking done by an assumed self. The tool cannot dismantle the hand that holds it. That is why the self falls in stages, not all at once. The view falls first, the conceit falls last. And between those two, there can be an entire lifetime of practice. So now you have heard the teaching. You understand the two levels, the view and the conceit. But understanding is not the same as seeing. And the I does not wait for you to finish studying before it goes to work. It is already at work, right now, in everything you do. Someone criticizes you. Before you even process the words, something inside tightens. Chest, jaw, stomach. And a voice, not always in words, sometimes just a feeling, says, "They are attacking me." That "me" is instant. It was there before you had time to evaluate whether the criticism was fair, before you had time to take a breath. And from that moment, everything you say and do comes from a place of defense, not from clarity, not from wisdom, from I. Or think about comparison. You scroll through your phone and see someone living the life you want, the career, the relationship, the ease. Something inside contracts, not because their life affects yours in any practical way, but because I measured itself against them and came up short. The suffering is not in their success. It is in the silent sentence, "I am less." Nobody said it to you. The I said it to itself. Or think about the smaller, quieter moments. You do something kind for someone, and a part of you waits for acknowledgement. You share an idea at work, and something inside tracks whether people noticed. You enter a room and a background process scans. Where do I stand here? Am I respected? Am I welcome? Am I enough? None of this is conscious. All of it is the I, maintaining itself, measuring itself, every waking moment, without rest. Or think about loss. When someone you love is gone, there is absence. That absence is real. But notice what happens next. The mind does not simply sit with the absence. It wraps a story around it. I lost them. My life is broken. I will never be the same. And then it wraps a story around the story. I am the kind of person bad things happen to. The raw experience of absence is one thing. The layers of narrative that the mind builds on top of it, that is what the Buddha called upadana, clinging. And it is the sense of I, whether gross or subtle, that spins these layers automatically, before you even know it is happening. In the Khemaka Sutta, the Buddha put it simply. In brief, the 5 clinging aggregates are suffering. Not the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates of clinging. The experience itself is not the trap. The trap springs in that invisible moment when experience becomes my experience. When a sensation becomes my pain. When a passing event becomes another brick in the wall of me. And the tragedy is, this moment happens thousands of times a day, and we are aware of almost none of them. This is why you can let go of so many things and still feel trapped. You can forgive and still carry the wound. You can sit in meditation and stand up with the same weight. You can even understand everything in this video, and still feel the I operating underneath your understanding. Because letting go of things is not the same as letting go of the one who holds. You can empty your hands completely, and the hands will still be clenched. The I also shapes the questions you ask about yourself. In the Khemaka Sutta, the Buddha described what he called unwise attention. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I? Am I? Am I not? What am I? These sound like honest self-inquiry. He called them unwise, not because they are foolish, but because no matter how deep they go, they still orbit a center, the assumed I. You are asking the I to see itself. And there is one more thing I hides. It hides the freedom you are searching for. I want peace. I want liberation. I want to finally be free of this weight. But look at the structure. The one searching for freedom is the very thing generating the sense of captivity. Every act of seeking confirms that something is missing. You are a fish swimming frantically in search of water. So if you cannot think your way out, and you cannot force your way through, what is left? Khemaka faced exactly this question. And his answer, the one he gave while leaning on his staff, barely able to stand, is worth hearing. After admitting that Asmimana remained, Khemaka did not despair. He offered a second image, quieter than the lotus, but grounded in something the first lacked, a way forward. He said, "Think of a dirty, stained cloth. Its owners give it to a washerman, who scrubs it with salt earth and lye, until the cloth is clean and spotless. But a faint scent of the cleaning agent still clings to it. What do the owners do? They do not scrub harder. They put it away in a scent-infused wicker hamper. And slowly, without force, even that residual scent fades. Not because anyone attacked it, but because the right conditions were given for it to dissolve on its own. The conceit I am works the same way. You cannot overpower it. You cannot reason it away." But as Khemaka described, the practitioner keeps focusing on the arising and passing of the 5 clinging aggregates. Such is form, such its origin, such its disappearance, such is feeling, such is perception, such are formations, such is consciousness, such its origin, such its disappearance. Through this patient, sustained observation, not fighting, not forcing, the lingering residual I am conceit is fully obliterated. Clear seeing, held steadily over time, dissolves what was only ever a habit, never a reality. And then the Sutta records. As Khemaka was speaking, the minds of 60-some monks, through no clinging, were fully released. And so was Khemaka's own mind, right there, mid-sentence. What freed him was not a special technique. It was the willingness to look at what was actually there, without adding to it, without denying it, without turning it into a project. He simply said, "This is what I see. This is what remains." And in that seeing, the remaining fell away. You do not need to be a monk for this. You need only begin where you are. Next time anger rises, pause, one breath. And notice, there is a sense of I that feels attacked. Don't judge it. Don't add a story about why you should be better. Just notice. Next time anxiety grips you, there is an I afraid of losing something. Not I am anxious. That is merging. But there is anxiety, and there is an I wrapped around it. The difference sounds small. It is enormous. Next time you measure your worth against someone else, notice. There is an I that needs to be more. Next time you do something kind and wait for someone to notice, there is an I that needs to be seen. You don't need to fix any of this. Just see it, without merging with it, without running from it, without adding another layer of I should not be like this. Each time you do this, even for a single moment. You are placing the cloth in the fragrant hamper. You are not doing anything dramatic. You are not having a spiritual experience. You are simply seeing what is there. And each time you see it without grabbing on, the scent thins a little more. You will forget. You will merge with the I again 100 times a day. That is not failure. That is the practice. Khemaka did not go from confusion to arahantship in a straight line. Nobody does. The path is not a line. It is a returning, again and again, to the willingness to look. The path the Buddha laid out is not about becoming extraordinary. It is about learning to look without flinching. At what you are clinging to. At the I that sits at the center of everything you do. That looking, plain, unglamorous, moment to moment, is itself the practice. Khemaka saw this. 60 monks saw this. And the seeing did not belong to them. It is what the mind does, on its own, when it stops insisting on being someone.